So, I think we're rolling. Look at that.
My goodness.
All those numbers are flying by, and check, test, 1, 2. I'm okay. Your level's okay.
Can be done.
So, Robert, here we are.
Here we are. Greetings, sweet man.
Thank you for this opportunity to talk with you. I know you're retired officially.
It didn't take.
And I was really looking forward to sitting down and talking with you because we've had a relationship for a long time and have admired your books and your career and your life story. And I'm hoping this will be an opportunity just to talk a bit about your life and what you've learned and some ideas or some tools that you've learned that might be of help to others. And maybe, I'll just leave that there. And I'd like to open with a question that my wife sent me with.
Oh.
And she said, you should ask Robert this. Robert, do you feel enlightened at this stage
Lord.
of your life?
Of course not. I can come back real quick with an answer to that. There's a saying in India, anybody who thinks he is enlightened certainly is not. No, I'm not enlightened. I still weigh 180 pounds and firmly rooted to the ground.
In your experience, in your many travels in life, have you ever met anyone on this earth who you feel was enlightened?
That's a good story, and you set me off on a story with that. I think Samanta Chatterjee, a Brahmin friend in India, just my age. We quarrel over who's the elder of the two of us. In India, you're 1 year old when you're born. And here, you're 1 year old when you've been on the face of the earth, breathing for a year. So, by Indian standards, he is older than I, and that's important to him. Actually, I'm 4 or 5 months older than he. One of the funny things I learned from Samanta, I learned how to quarrel with him. It's an Indian sport. And there's nothing vicious in their quarrels. It's more like an arm wrestle kind of thing. So he talked about enlightenment often, and scarcely anything else. And he would talk about Master so-and-so. I was getting slightly irritated because these great people were always in the Himalayas or 3 centuries back, or it was pretty obvious that they were mythological characters. And I was asking him, and I asked him, we love to arm wrestle over things like this. Happily, it was part of the devotion between the two of us. Have you ever actually seen an enlightened person? And he was a master evader, I think the best I've ever known in my life. And he would do one of his clever footwork maneuvers and evade it. Finally, I got up courage enough. Samanta, have you ever seen in the flesh, an actual enlightened person. I didn't have my hand on his throat, but literally, but almost. And finally, this was a master stroke on his part. He said, "Yes. Oh, really? You mean you have actually seen a living human being who is enlightened?" "Yes." "Oh. Who?" "You."
Oh my gosh.
I nearly fell off my chair. We never discussed the matter again.
Wow.
Well, he's as near enlightened as anybody I've ever been close to or exchanged humanly with. He's a beautiful man. He was also a 100% thorough human being. So this term of enlightenment it's a curious thing, and it's a useful term, and I'm not about to throw it out. But to me now, it means it's a good piece of verbal equipment for talking about rare moments of insight, which practically everybody has sometime in their life. But they're worth the term enlightenment to me. And I don't think they're ever anything but the briefest experiences. But I like the term.
So the image we have of Buddha, of Christ, of an individual walking the face of the earth who reaches this state and then lives there is just that. It's an ideal image, and something really no human being can live up to at that level.
Not in a time sense. I'm sure Buddha lived to an old age, and I'm sure his joints ached. And, people have made him an enlightened soul on a continuous basis because they need it. They need it. One needs enlightened people, but they always live in the Himalayas or 200 years ago or something.
So would you say then at this stage of your life, your moments of enlightenment, your moments of perception are more frequent than...
You're getting on very thin ice, my dear sir. I will evade you nicely.
Okay.
Everybody has moments, and the most easily identifiable and are in practically everybody's repertoire of high experiences is when you fall in love. Almost everybody has experienced that. Struggles around in it, falls flat on his face very likely, can't function, behaves like an idiot. It's permitted to behave like an idiot when you're in love. But people often deny that experience or downplay it or, oh yeah, silly adolescent stuff.
So if...
Pink cloud stuff, which it isn't.
So what you're saying is enlightenment really is a is a moment when you're touching something or sensing something. Let's talk about what that is when that happens, when you fall in love, or you're in some momentary ecstatic state, or whatever is under the, what is that? What are we perceiving in those moments?
Well, you used a word which gives us a little cranny of understanding of it. And the word ecstatic, the word means to stand outside of. And that's as good an explanation of the ecstatic experiences, or the in love, or the state of awe, or the beatific vision. People struggled around trying to find adequate and poetic terms for it. It is to stand outside oneself, and for a moment, whilst one still has one's personal faculties, eyesight and hearing and the like, but one is freed of one's littleness, or one's freed of one's pettiness or egocentricity. So that's as far as I can go, and as far as I need to go in talking about ecstatic experiences or moments of enlightenment, or the sunrise that struck you dead still for a while, is to be relieved of one's egocentric confines. There's enough I left in one to have perceptions. I'm not sure that somebody with a very small I, or a very weak ego structure, would be capable of ecstatic experiences. He wouldn't need them because he's got nobody to be outside of. So this is sober news, but one has to have a developed ego structure, enough sense of I-ness, so that there's somebody here to register these things, so that one can be relieved of that ego briefly. In a way, it's a death sentence to have an ego or an egocentric structure. But if one's going to be a human being, especially a cultured one or an educated human being, one has to have a strong ego.
So this ecstatic or an ecstatic experience could actually be a disaster for an individual whose ego can't bear it.
That's true. If one goes psychotic and one's ego breaks under the strain of it, that's an ecstatic experience, permanent.
Would that explain why historically these types of experiences were reserved for certain specialized people in societies, like the medicine man, the priest?
Yes. I'm very critical of the church in many respects, but I admire it and adhere to it very deeply in some other dimensions. We'll talk more about that later if you wish. But the traditional church, I'm talking about early Catholicism, has provisions for all of this. They propose to teach their people to be responsible, to build an ego, to obey the laws, to have a moral sense. And they talk about that in the sense of the Garden of Eden experience. When it's still an animal, he's not fallen out of heaven yet in the Garden of Eden. Everybody's non-egocentric, which is a definition of heaven if you need one. But he's got to go through the fall. The scripture is, what is it? O happy fall that was the occasion for so sublime a redemption. There's a lot of comfort and a lot of wise instruction in that enigmatic statement. Oh, happy fall. It's a fall, just like the Garden of Eden story. Man and his wife is kicked out of the Garden of Eden and the gate slammed in back of him. Fiery angel with a fiery sword stands guard at the gate so he can't come back. But theology says that because God, divinity, fate did this to man, God is then obliged to produce some kind of restitution or restoration of the happy state. And that's why Christ was sent to the face of the earth. And if the process works, if one's faith is adequate and if one is loyal to the process, one comes back a brief instance at the moment of communion in Mass. Communion, that the experience of Mass, is a way of touching the ecstatic state briefly, just a moment. Not too long or one would go out of one's head. So with great care, especially great care for the priest who is officiating this process, and he has to be clothed carefully and he has to have various symbols around him for his own protection. And one gets just enough of a brief look at the kingdom of heaven, as the church chooses to call it, to keep one going, keep one encouraged, and you go back to the rat race from there. But the church kept little crannies for extraordinary people who had more than ordinary ecstatic experiences. That's the origin of monasticism, or the hermitage or whatever. And there were people who lived sort of on the edge between heaven and earth, but that's for very rare people. And the church took extraordinary care of people like that because it's a dangerous place to be. You might skid back into ordinary earthiness and get into a special kind of damnation. Or you might skid into heaven and, well, the church needs its saints and they can't do without them. I like that view of it all.
Mm-hmm. I know this topic of monasticism is something very close to your heart.
Yeah.
And in your life journey,
yeah,
it's something that you've embraced, but in a very unique or individual way.
Well, I tried it literally. spent 2 years in a monastery. Found it a very hypocritical place. And to this day, I think if I found a truly functioning monastery, I would go to it, but I've given up hunting.
Why do you feel that that's such a challenge to find a place right now that actually works in terms of a monastery?
Well, in general, in the modern world, our religious sense is drifting away into almost total inadequacy. And I have no truck with the idea of heaven and earth as geography. They're human experiences, and everybody's has a touch of heaven in him, and everybody has a big touch of earth in him. That's our native land. And he has a touch of hell in him, too. There are hellish moments when one wonders if one has the courage to draw the next breath.
Are you saying that a modern person really externalizes the concept of heaven and hell
Yes.
and just really doesn't?
Yeah.
Is it a holdover of the medieval view?
Yeah. I think the church, in my teenage rebellions, I got so angry at the church, shaking my fist at God, standard. And slowly I've taken a milder view of it, that the church has a very difficult job on its hands, and it has to minister to a wide variety of people. And it's not doing too bad a job of it, I hope. But
that path, the church, or the power of the church to do that, was lost to you at some point, wasn't it?
long about the Reformation, we began to get smart enough so we wouldn't buy that literalism. But it still hangs around as literalism, and there's still people who believe and need to believe that they better shape up and behave right or they'll go to hell. In a desperate kind of way, that's true, because you'll get into a hellish mess if you disobey basic human laws. But mostly we've gotten just smart enough so we know better than to take the religious traditions literally. Somebody said when the first rocket went into space, Sputnik, and it was maybe facetiously argued around as they proved there's no heaven. Just was a bigger view of what we already had. That's half joke and half true. We've gotten to the point where we don't believe Scripture literally, so we throw out the whole thing and can't live without it. We got psychology instead of religion. And psychology is limping along, trying to explain these things, and in many respects, making a new mythology, which isn't as good as the old one, really.
Well, and really, it just seems like it wouldn't be a big enough container.
It isn't. And that degrading of any religious system, we better try to clarify a little bit about what religion means. The word is eloquent. Re, to make again. And the next syllable is lig, similar to ligature, to pull together. So the word means to pull things back together again. And science is trying its damnedest to explain the universe, and it stretches farther and farther. Every Scientific American magazine that I get talks about the new frontiers of space, and they're running out of zeros of capacity to talk about the distances and time frames and so forth. But humankind can't function with some kind of ligature, lig, meaning to pull together.
What is it has to pull together?
That which got torn apart at the Garden of Eden.
And then that raises a whole can of worms. Doesn't it? It's
many worms.
I mean, that can be taken on an individual level, right?
Yes.
And it can also be taken on a historical human level.
Yeah, I'm interested in both. When a new patient comes to my consulting room, we go to work on the can of worms and spend a long time trying to figure out what his specific can of worms is. I never thought of it in those terms, but it's eloquent. And then comes that superhuman question of, okay, how do we pull this together? Which is a religious experience, to restructure or pull together that which has been torn apart. Every modern person is a wreckage of torn elements. Freud took it back to the death, the birth trauma. He started with that. We're all still screaming because we got born.
Now, when you say modern person, you're referring to a Western person, right? A Western attitude?
Yes, that's true. I loved India so much because I could still find people who had not been kicked out of the Garden of Eden yet. I could scarcely believe it, and I loved those people. They're very dangerous because they haven't sensed to come in out of the rain. But they were, if you don't push the term too far, they were whole people. And the word whole and the word holy are identical. They're holy people.
Is it your feeling that that was the state of most people prior to being kicked out of the Garden of Eden, so to
Yes.
speak? That is what we were kicked out of, was that unwounded.
Yes.
Now, is there value to this being kicked out? Is that something that was an accident? Is that something that God ordained? Is that something evolutionarily that our consciousness needs to?
Remember the scripture, "O happy fall."
Yeah.
That was the occasion for so sublime a redemption. Yeah, it's evolution, psychic evolution. And unless one's kicked out of the Garden of Eden, doesn't break his neck in the fall. he'll never develop consciousness. And when might shake one's fist at God and ask, well, what's it all about? If life is just a veil of sorrows and tears, what in the hell? And I think the answer is you have to develop an ego structure to have the organs of perception and awareness of the splendor of God. And one gets little hints of where one was. Footnote there. And where one is going, just enough to keep one's courage up, and maybe, if you take a deep breath, make it worth living.
The communion, so to speak.
Yeah.
The moments of
Yes.
ecstatic vision.
Yes, yes. The church says, and still maintains, that the high moment of Mass, of communion, is a brief respite or reminder or breather to keep you going the rest of the week. One can say a very important thing here with this language that we have evolved up between us now. If you put your money on a retrospective view of the happy moments of your life, you're finished, you're cooked, because that's regression. There are lots of people who, so to speak, cashed it all in, and they remember the good old days, or they remember their childhood, or they keep hunting for mother, or they keep regressing one way or another. And that's fatal. That's a total misconception or a misreading of the whole mythological world. But if one senses this as a preview, all right, then one knows where one's going.
So we're talking about now in the Christian structure, something that came into being a long time ago, and the church, well, the church, traditional church, really formed in medieval times, or to just say in a time of our evolution, where the symbolism and the ritual worked pretty well for most people, right, to fulfill this role.
Potentially, and at its best, the church can speak to the culture that it has on its hands, but it's missed the boat lately.
Well, that's what I'm leading into, is that in my personal experience, it didn't speak to me at all. I sensed more spirit on the street than I did inside the church, and
They were hellishly lonely then.
And that
You can't live on the street.
so the modern symptom of this is alienation, loneliness, disconnect, a lack of meaning, and we see the symptoms everywhere in our culture of how we try to feed that need.
entertainment comes into fashion then. You know how big entertainment is.
Entertainment and the word of celebrity worship.
Mm-hmm.
And
I don't think that's a bad definition of hell. Perpetual loneliness. Nobody seems to be contented.
so we're really now starting to touch on your life work, which has been to help people get religion or put it all back together. Or maybe another way to say it is to learn to function with a religious attitude in your life and try to find the proper level for some of these things.
Yes.
Could you even go so far as you almost have to reconvince people that there is still a living mystery?
Good luck.
I don't know if I just lost the thread of what we were talking about or not, Robert. My words fail me.
Yeah. I would state what you just said slightly differently. I'm so grateful for 2, 3, or 4 or few people who taught me a way out of my hellish loneliness. However, I would define my modern hell and find at least moments of or a comprehension of a religious life. I got so interested in that there wasn't anything else to do but make a profession of that. That has an interesting history because I earned my living as an analyst, trained under Carl Jung, who's the best statement of this process in modern terms that I've ever found. But partway along, when I had other means of earning a living, I found I could not ever charge fees for the analytical process. I've antagonized the professional psychological world ever since.
Well, really, you have St. John's House, isn't it? You have, you've really been, what am I saying, a monk on the loose. Your life work has been bringing people into religion or trying to do that. And the psychology of Carl Jung, it seemed to help you because he was very much a thinking type person. He was a doctor, he considered himself a scientist, but yet he left the door open for the mystery.
Yes. But I'm squirming under what you're saying. Because I found out I couldn't help anybody. So this idea of being helpful was just a cherry on the top of my egocentricity. But I'm not interested much of anything else, and by chance people came by who wanted to talk about that. But that's old man talk.
Yeah.
Don't take any notice of it.
Well, I think, you've got many admirers. You had people who kept coming back to you.
Mm-hmm. My books make my living for me. I'm grateful for that.
So people sense something in you or project something onto you that I feel you would probably say is there within them to begin with. It's their gold.
That's true.
And what is that?
Okay, I'll tell you a story. A young man came to me a long time ago. He laid out his can of worms. It's new to me to speak of the anamnesis, as they formally call it, as one's can of worms. It was a large can. And he wound down and he looked at me pathetically. He said, "Do you think you can help me?" And I said, "That's not the point. Do you think I can help you?" And he actually recoiled physically to that. And we began with that. If he gives me what he's already got but doesn't know it, then I can grandly hand it back to him. Another fellow came to me, and we talked about this at great length. We talked about where one places one's gold. One always projects it at first. We talked, he came to me over a period of many years. He's a famous doctor now. One day he came to me. I think I'd given him a piece of gold, a small piece of gold, just as a talisman. He came to me and he said, "I think I'm ready to give my gold back to you. I don't have to project it anymore." Okay, so we shook hands and had a celebration. He had no manners. Next day, he pounded on my door, said, "Here, take it. I don't want it."
So what is somebody's gold?
Their capacity for enlightenment. It's always been a symbol of that.
It's not the enlightenment itself, it's the ability.
Well, don't get too precise.
Okay.
Gold has always represented gold and diamond as the ultimate value, imperishable, incorruptible, on and on.
I see.
So the day he gave me the gold back, he's an impulsive guy, and he thrust it at me. He said, "I can't stand it. You keep it." We worked for a while longer, and finally actually made the transfer of gold, and he said, "Okay, I think I can stand it now." And he was a very dramatic guy.
Why is it so hard? Why is it so painful to accept your own gold?
What would you do if you didn't think I was around? That's what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. You've got your gold safely lodged in me to a degree. You're learning better. But it's a painful thing to be conscious. The gold or enlightenment is synonymous with the art of consciousness. And don't ask me what consciousness is, because nobody knows.
Well, and we've talked in the past too about the streets of heavenly Jerusalem.
Paved with gold. Well,
but how it's still noisy. You still. Well, it's like we've just been talking about. You can't live there. There's a.
That's true.
Our childish or our medieval view of heaven is all all the weight of the world is lifted and all the unpleasantness is banished, and it's all light and happiness and good feeling.
It's like Samantha was playing. There are people who live in their enlightenment, but they're always in the Himalayas. Then he landed with the truth, which he knew perfectly well. To heaven or Jerusalem inside yourself, when and if you can stand it.
So have your thoughts and feelings on these subjects, they must have evolved over time?
Slowly.
Very slowly, beginning with your first awareness of this realm, which I've heard you refer to as golden world experiences. And now at this stage of your life, is there anything new you're learning about the subjects?
Process goes on. I'm old enough to be facing my own death pretty square of the face. And I have an idea of what it is, and I think I have had previews of it. It defies any vocabulary to talk about it, any kind of intelligence. But in one sense, I can't wait. In another sense, if I get sick, I go to the doctor. I feel as if I'm edging daily toward a higher consciousness. Not much else interests me now. Consciousness and relatedness are intimately connected. To reel the conversation back a few sentences, you have a son of your own now, and whether you like it or not, you have to be the carrier of gold for him. And you struggle against it in one sense and enjoy it immensely in another sense.
It's been quite a transition into parenthood.
It has.
Certainly, I have a friend who I admire who waited to tell me after my son was born that he's always felt that one never truly grows up until you become a parent.
True.
And
there's another statement parallel to that. You're never grown up as long as your father lives. One stays in the sonship just automatically. There's an example of that. Old king of Sweden died in his 90s, and his 65-year-old son had gotten so used to being a crown prince that he couldn't be king. They stuffed him into the role, but he didn't know how to take it. One's constantly graduating from, I don't know, you finish the sentence.
it's a journey.
Yeah. If you stop, and most people do, most people just kind of get sick and whiny in old age, and that's not development.
Well, I feel like I mean, you're a pretty mature elder now. You're 85 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And
never expected to go that far.
Your experience of reaching this point seems like have done it very gracefully. But I'm sure it's presented its own special problems.
I'm acutely aware of the messes on the way. Thank you for the compliment. It's one I would strive for. Carl Jung once said you should accomplish your death, not fall into it.
And what do you think he meant by that?
Just what it sounds like. Don't suddenly fall over the edge of the cliff of time, so to speak, and howl and scream for help. But be aware of what's happening and, so to speak, be worthy of it.
Which takes us back to the very beginning again, right? And developing a relationship with that living mystery. Finding a place for the ecstatic experience within your life.
Mm-hmm.
Which, can you say that is the religious life for the modern person?
It's a religious life for any human being, and where he happens to be housed in the historical process requires a continually changing or evolving language or set of attitudes. And we're not doing very well with it at present.
That seems to be a symptom of the breakdown of the power of the church, and the era of the gurus are gone, as Krishnamurti said, and that we have to take that.
The con men are taking over.
And the individual is easily crushed under the weight of this without the right tools.
Yes, yes. We have not restored the religious breakdown with anything else. Science tries, and I'm interested in reading science things. They sound more like mystics.
Well, you've been, despite your protestations, to whatever degree you've actually helped people, you've certainly offered some you've helped to offer some tools in hope of somehow making it through this muddle somehow.
I like that.
And there's great value in that.
Great danger to it, because it can feed one's ego. And that spoils it. It invalidates it. If I think I'm the great teacher or the great healer or something or another, I'll fall flat on my face.
And also, right, I mean, that's a big danger of delving into this, is keeping that proper level between what we call it, heaven and earth, or inner, outer, because too much of one or the other is, well, too much heaven and you blow up like a balloon. And
not real heaven, but pseudo heaven. The world's got too many pseudo saints in it. Real saints don't know where to go anymore. They're out of fashion.
Well, you radiate a sense of inner authority, which comes back to if you had answered the first question by saying, yes, I'm enlightened and you should listen to me, then we would have known. and and as we move on in our discussions, maybe that's something to explore,
Okay.
how it's not you're not living in a belief system, you're dealing with a living reality.
This process which we're circling around, circumambulating is saying is the best thing one can do. One examines. The process works best in relationship, at least for me. I'm a feeling type. That's the most intense reality that I know about. Other people can go off to their laboratory or their paintbrush or whatever. For me, it's relationship. Okay.
Maybe we'll pick that up later.
Okay. Enough.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
I'm hot.
So am I.